Welcome in whenever you get this message, whether that's on this live or who knows when. I hope that wherever you're at in the world, that you are thriving and well. Today we're discussing vampires. And y'all, right when I got on this live, or as I was about to get on, I realized that I did an archetype video almost a year ago now on what I was calling spiral vampirism. And this was when I was writing my book, The Architect is Her. And I realized, like, as I was getting on, I'm like, I was wearing the same turban when I was talking about vampires before. So I noticed that for folks who peep that kind of detail. I know some of y'all do, I'm aware, okay? And I will say there is a frequency of purple with this ability to, first of all, mix the colors of blue and red together, which creates an alchemical balance to see beneath illusion, okay? And on top of that, there is an energy of retrieving aspects of your crown chakra in order to perceive the way vampirism plays out in your world, okay? So I just want to make that note. Welcome to anybody who joins. Please leave your questions and comments down below. I just ask that you don't spam, okay? I don't accept spam sort of frequencies in my lives. So that will be an automatic block, okay? But other than that, everybody's welcome. Whether you're showing love, whether you're showing unlove, whatever. All of that stuff is welcome regardless, okay? So let's get into it. I want to, first of all, say that, you know, I've been going into this frequency of sponsorship, okay? And having my content sponsored, right? I don't actually have any ads on my channel, and I choose not to, and it helps me to be able to give my unfiltered, authentic voice into the discussion. So that feels really good. That being said, I have been playing around with this concept of sponsorship, okay? And choosing who my sponsors are, okay? And I do that for a very particular reason, and it helps me to work with the algorithm, to have a conversation actually with the algorithm, and to perceive and receive certain messages that I also need on my path. So I'm very happy to provide this service to the collective of doing these talks. And they also fuel me as well, okay? This is one of the frequencies of energetic exchange, okay? What I pour out into the world also comes back to me as well. So as I help or support others on their path, that same frequency supports me as well. So that being said, I'm going to say what today's sponsor for this conversation is. Today's sponsor is not a being, it's not an archetype. The past few times that I've been talking about sponsorship on this live, I've been saying that it's been sponsored by different deities or different archetypes, and that's cool. But today we're going into degrees. We're moving into a frequency of degrees. So I want to shout out today's sponsor, which is the 18th degree. Today's conversation on the psychology of vampirism is sponsored by the 18th degree or the 18th dimension, okay? And with that, we will begin. So this is not about judgment. There are going to be people who see this thumbnail, who see me speaking about energetic vampirism and are going to immediately be triggered. Oh, that's evil. Oh, that's dark magic. Oh, that's condemned. This conversation is above your pay grade then, okay? You can still hang out like a fly on the wall if you want, but you might not have the energetic bandwidth to feel me, and that's okay, all right? This is not about polarity. This is about cosmic law. If you don't understand how this simulation runs through the frequency of vampirism, you are out of resonance or just don't understand cosmic law, which is totally fine. I've been there. This is not me being a judge. If you look at my content, maybe especially like when I was on TikTok and on Instagram, say maybe 4 years ago, I was definitely talking mess about vampirism because I was getting vamped off of left, right, and sideways. And as my inner eye began to see this, it bothered me. How dare people come into my energetic field and feed off of me, leaving me in a state of depletion? I remember when I first woke up to vampirism and how it was impacting my life. I had a friend who came and visited my house. I'll put friend in quotation marks. She was definitely a vamp. And I couldn't actually perceive it before, but this was during a time when I was going through a particular awakening. So a lot more became clear to me. So I hadn't seen her in a while. We had been communicating via text, via phone. And all of a sudden, she's at my house and I damn near fainted. I've never had that experience before. I've never fainted. This person came into my house and I fainted out of nowhere. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know people fainted like that. And it was at that moment when I knew that relationship was over, that I would never see that person again. She did not take it well. Okay, she was one of my best friends at the time. Okay, but it had to be done because I knew that there was an energetic dynamic in which she was outranking me and she was feeding off of my energy. So I had to put an end to that. Okay. This is when I started learning about what vampirism is, what energetic vampirism is. But I am not coming at vampirism from a polarized point of view. If you are on a path to a process of, embodying your inner god, your inner goddess from within, you will need to know energetic vampirism. And on top of that, you being an energy vampire doesn't make you better or worse than anybody else. It just means you know the dynamics of energy more than others. Now, the problem with energetic vampirism is that it has been demonized while at the same time running our whole society. On one hand, we see vampirism as being evil, being dark magic, all that kind of stuff. But then on the other perspective, our monetary system is run on vampirism. Our family structures are run on vampirism. Our work systems are run on vampirism. Our medical systems are run on vampirism, all for entertainment purposes only. I'm talking about vampires. Vampires don't exist, right? So on one hand, there's a very vampiristic frequency running on this planet. But it's only reserved for certain beings because in this realm where the law of polarity rules, some people get vamped off of, other people vamp. And that is the way the cosmos is supposed to run, through this law of polarity. So I've been speaking a lot about this concept of universal law recently. And I'm going to keep speaking about it because repetition is important. And sorry, not universal law, cosmic law. Cosmic law outranks universal law. In universal law, it is the law of polarity. Also, the law of rhythm is something to look at when you look at the 7 Hermetic laws. But when you transcend that, when you transcend the universe or the solar system, you get into cosmic law, which is ruled by neutrality, which is neither malevolent nor benevolent. It's neutral. Many beings who run this simulation, they know this, and they do their best to stay in resonance with cosmic law, with some exceptions. They do engage in certain practices to bend the rules, let's say, so that they can stay on top and they can stay the supreme vampires, let's just say. That does happen. So meanwhile, the lay person, the person who gets indoctrinated in religion, the person who gets indoctrinated in the school system, the person who gets indoctrinated in New Age spirituality, sees vampirism as being purely negative. Meanwhile, the guru who runs that spiritual cult, that priest who runs that religion, that school principal who runs that school, are well versed in vampirism. You see the problem? That could be a little tricky. That might create certain forms of inequity on this planet. We might need to educate ourselves on vampirism and the secrets and the mysteries of it. That's what we'll be doing today. So let's go back to universal law, which is the law of polarity. That is what runs this universe. And so what that means is that there needs to be a victim and there needs to be a victimizer. That's how it's been running. Some people get marked as being the victim. Other people are free to be the victimizer. This is how vampirism works, and it has been run through the law of polarity. But there is a cheat code to universal law. You can't go up against the law of polarity, but you can choose to have a neutral experience. You can do that. And so what that would mean is if you have been wearing the coding of a victim in the simulation, you can choose to go neutral. And then what would happen is you would reverse polarize. This is all done based upon a mathematical algorithm, because our astrology charts are based upon a mathematical algorithm that programs us into certain grid systems in the simulation. So what that would mean is that you could now, if you choose to go neutral, not choose to have revenge, not choose to, quote, go evil per se or anything like that, but if you choose to go neutral, you could have a 360-degree experience on this planet. You could do that. You could definitely do that. And then if you were somebody who was vamped off of, you will need to learn the art of vampirism. It's something that is constantly ruling this system as it is. Vampiric software, vampiric structures, vampiric social structures. It's ruling the way we interact with each other. Whether it's through social media, the same platform I'm speaking to you on right now, whether it's through the news. Do you know there are some beings who feed on the news? You know how, like, we ask the question of why is there always negativity in the news? Why don't they show the positive stuff? Because there are beings who are feeding off of the bad news of the planet. Did you know that? They get their feed every day. Feed, you know, like your social media feed. Vampirism. They get their feed when they see these news reports of cataclysms and catastrophe and people suffering. They feed. It's as it's supposed to be. Some people are getting the exact energy source that they need through these systems. Meanwhile, you're turning up your nose at vampirism. Two things are happening if you're doing that. Either, number one, you are in such a state of sleep state that you're not fully understanding how the energetic dynamics actually go on this planet. Or you're an unconscious vampire, okay, and you're not awakened to the fact that you are also benefiting from these vampiristic systems. Or you might have a negative view on vampirism because you know how much your energy has been siphoned through this particular energy. We all participate in this. This is not like, oh, the bad people vamp and the good people don't vamp. You know, the good people get sacrificed and the bad people don't. We all participate in energetic vampirism. If we participate in this universe, in the law of polarity, we all have a role to play in the way vampirism plays out on this planet. I said in the beginning, this conversation might just be above some people's pay grade. And if so, that's all right. I will see you in the next one. This is a cosmic law conversation. So if you're interested in getting out of your victim script, if you've been somebody who's been feeling like you've been being vamped off of, or if you've been being victimized, you would need to learn the art of vampirism. And any sort of energies that you have, or any sort of energies that you have around judging this, you might want to interrogate that. Because we all participate in vampirism in some way. So today, let's discuss the psychology of vampirism. Okay? And we can do this from a variety of different ways. Let's start off in a more basic way. I'm going to start off in the way I expressed and discussed vampirism maybe 4 years ago, which is more of an energy harvesting, energetic vampirism standpoint. So we'll start there. Here's some signs that you are being vamped off of in your current environment. Do you feel very tired when, just generally, you finish your day and you feel exhausted? Do you feel as though you are not artistic? Do you feel as though you have certain creative blocks? You're just not able to create for some reason. Like you have dreams about creating, but you never have time. You never have time to create. Your desire for creation just goes. Do you ever feel as though you're so tired at the end of the day that all you can do is veg out and scroll on social media? These are some signs that you're being energetically vamped off of. Do you have family members where you can't fully put your finger on it, but for some reason when you are spending time with them, or friends where you are spending time with them, that your energy just feels zapped or lowered after you're done? Like you feel as though there was an unequal exchange, that they somehow got more energetic reserves from you? They're an energy vampire. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they are more sophisticated in the realms of energy than you are. Because had you known, right, if you had learned about that art of vampirism, you would have known firsthand when that feeding took place, and you would have matched their energy and neutralized it. So here's the key. Vampires do not feed on other vampires. There is a hierarchy that occurs with vampirism. The beings who have been able to navigate and master the art of energetic manipulation on this planet have had these teachings passed down to them from generation after generation, and have used these teachings to build and accrue wealth. Because they know that true wealth is not about the dollar. It's not about the paper currency. Energy is currency. And they have become well versed with the manipulation and the circulation of that currency, and ensuring that they are not depleting themselves of their energetic currency. This is why when you see different vampire lore, there tends to be an air of luxury related to it. They're not working so hard. You're not going to see a vampire out in the 9-to-5 structure, with some exceptions. But, if we're looking at this from more of a, more of a mythological standpoint, they're usually chilling out in their castle, okay? They're sleeping in the daytime. They're out at night. They also aren't in the sun like that. That's also a code related to the vampirism of the sun. They're also not in the sun in the same way as well. So what do you do? If you've been in a victim script, you're going to need to quickly learn about the art of vampirism. I called this in my book, Spiral Vampirism. This is my book called The Architect is Her. The first book I ever wrote, this was like back in 2001 now, it was called The Grind Culture Detox. And this is when I realized I was in this like hive mind, grind culture mentality. Like I was being in like an enslaved sort of consciousness where I felt as though I always had to give more. I had to give more of my energy. I had to give more of my essence. I was experiencing extreme workaholism. I was experiencing extreme anxiety. A lot of stuff. And I felt like there was no end to what I was expected to produce. It was because I was going through a particular awakening process and understanding the dynamics of energy exchange and energy harvesting, which I hadn't known before. I processed this out through that book, The Grind Culture Detox. Took some time to learn about myself, go through my own spiritual development process. A few years later, I released The Architect is Her. And I spoke about this concept called spiral vampirism, which I'm going to remind you of now. There's also a video that I did in my archetype section around spiral vampirism, where I describe a little bit more about what that was about. But spiral vampirism is this idea of knowing that you might be in a situation where the odds are stacked up against you. But what you do is you utilize everything around your environment as fuel to fuel you and propel you into what you actually want, what you actually require and desire. Anybody can be an energy vampire. Anybody. If you utilize energy, you can be an energy vampire. You can step into any environment, no matter what the script says. And with the power of your intention, with the force of your intention, you can choose to utilize whatever energy is being projected at you as a form of fuel. This is spiral vampirism. You'll need to do this as you reverse polarize and go to neutral, to get yourself out of the victim script. That's going to be key. These are the messages from the 18th dimension. Shouts out to the 18th degree. That is a vampiristic degree. It's not the only one, but it's the one we're going to focus on today. The thing about it, though, is you can't really meet the frequency of the 18th dimension until you get out of the sacrifice program, which is referred to as certain energies related to the mark of Cain. The mark of Cain is basically this energy of who gets sacrificed. You know, they want to say that the mark of Cain means that, you know, because Cain is supposed to be the first murderer recorded in the Bible, right? With Cain and Abel, he murdered his brother Abel. So when the priesthoods, they tell you about the mark of Cain, the way they'll describe it to you is they'll say that, you know, if somebody has the mark of Cain, they are basically marked as being that lineage of Cain who murdered their brother. Okay, so they're the bad one. No, they flipped it. If you wear the mark of Cain, you've been marked by the descendants of Cain. You're actually Abel. You're actually more of the frequency of Abel. You just got marked by Cain. And that's how this sacrifice system works. Because the beings in this particular side of the universe, they operate and operate heavily on the law of polarity. There can only be one winner and one loser. There has to be a victim and there has to be a victimizer. That's how they've been playing the game. So whoever has that mark of Cain, okay, they are targeted to be harvested off of. This doesn't necessarily mean a whole bloodline has a mark of Cain. It doesn't necessarily work like that. You could be in a bloodline where some beings have the mark of Cain and other beings don't, okay? And then you get into sacrifice scenarios in that particular family dynamic where karma gets placed upon one particular family member, or drama gets placed upon one particular family member. Or you'll notice too, this happens a lot in wealthy families as well. There's going to be a black sheep in that wealthy family. There's going to be someone who, even though they had all of the opportunities presented to them, they can't get their shit together. Bad things always happen to them. It's because they wear the mark of Cain. Someone has to. There needs to be a black sheep. It's actually how the simulation works. It's how the law of polarity works. You can't really change universal law when we're getting into the cosmic bureaucracy of things, but you can go to neutral. So you're still operating within universal law because you're still on that game board of universal law. But if you choose neutrality, you can choose to literally flip the script. But the gravity of what that means when you flip the script is if you were prey, you become predator. If you were the black sheep marked in that family, well, then the mark of Cain got to go to someone else, whoever marked you. It's not that you just start wilding out on randos. It's not like that. You have to go back to the source of origin of where that particular imprint occurred and do the swap from there. That's how you become a member of the undead. That's how you become a member of the undead. How do we know if we're being sacrificed or if we're just imagining it? Tell me more. Why would you think, give me an example of why you might think you're being sacrificed, and then give me an example of why you might think you're imagining it. Hey, Clementine. Okay, can I say more on how did Cain and Abel get involved again? How do they relate to 18? Cain and Abel. So, okay, look at my particular live that I did on the ancient Smiths. I go really in depth with the ancient Smiths and the legacy of Cain and Abel. So I learned a lot about this when I was navigating the second dimension. And this is when you get into the frequency of the locksmiths. There was not always a Stargate system within this universe. Okay, there wasn't always a gate system. There is a frequency that created a gate system to keep people enclosed, to keep people from evolving so that these sacrifice scenarios could take place. So whole religions needed to be created for this to go down. Whole initiations needed to be created for this to go down. And there needed to be a sophisticated marking system for this to occur. Okay, because of, these beings who created these things, they know cosmic law. They kind of they jimmied it a bit, to fit their needs. They know about the law of polarity, okay? They know about cosmic law to a certain extent, so that's why they do the two faces sort of frequency. That's why you'll see some of the, your benevolent all-father gods, their other face is the devil. And it's set up that way. Just look at the frequencies of the double-headed eagle, and that's telling you a big thing around how things really work. Or if you get into the frequencies of what is known as the Hegelian dialect as well. This is all things that these beings have done to cover themselves to stay neutral, okay? They just didn't stay neutral with the dissemination of information. They were very much unneutral and polarized with that. So what we have now is we have a lot of beings who have been caught up in these dynamics for many, many different generations and had no idea. And now they want out, but they don't know even the process, protocol, procedures to get out. Your way out would be through neutrality, and you must become a vampire to do it, because they set up this whole system related to it. How does the 18th degree relate to it? I'm not going to get fully into it on this live. That's going to be a little bit more of a private conversation, but I will tell you, number one, that the 18th degree is a vampiristic degree. You can visit the 18th dimension to learn more about that. I do have a book out called The Star Goddess Codes, and that includes a particular attunement where you can go to different stargates and dimensions. And I'm doing some more writings related to specifically the frequency of 18. But what I will say is I wasn't immediately able to access the 18th dimension, just like other dimensions too. You know, these sort of learnings I've been doing, it's not like I was just like able to just jump in and be like, hey, what's up? What's up? Like, no. I needed to smell a certain way. I needed to look a certain way. It was smell. It had a lot to do with smell. So I had a little mark of cane stench on me I had to get out. I had to do a lot of work with etheric perfuming because you get marked, you know what I mean? But I did it. Shouts out to the 18th dimension. Shouts out to the 18th degree. It's a vampire degree. Now I have this degree in my chart. And if I didn't say it already, let me just like be really clear. Yes, I'm a vampire. That is one of the archetypes I wear. I'm happy to say it. If anybody feels triggered by that, well, then I would just consider, this whole realm runs on vampirism. So what about that exactly triggers you? Let's go into that. Is it because you're an unconscious vampire? Could be. Is it because you've been so polarized against energetic vampirism, but you might be caught up in a vampiristic script right now, coming home every day tired, or maybe you're around draining family members? Think about it. Why does it trigger you? This whole thing runs on vampirism. So just think about it. You know what I mean? So you asked another question though. You said, okay, Cain of Abel and then 18. Yeah, so that's all I'm going to say about 18. But it's a frequency of vampirism. But it's not something you have to match that frequency. And if you are still wearing the stench of sacrifice on you, then you'll be looked at. Like, who's this? You know what it reminds me of? Y'all remember that movie, The Witches, that came out, I think it came out in the 80s? And it was that little boy that he came across that coven of witches. They all just looked like, regular old women and stuff. And they were doing a witch convention. So they had one face, they looked like regular women. But then they had another face at the witch convention. Their noses got all long. They look, they had their pointy hats and stuff like that. And they ate children. And they could smell the children too. So this little boy, he's understanding about oh my gosh, there's a coven of witches here. And he's trying to investigate. But then they start smelling I smell a child. Where's that child? It's like that. They tell you in the movies. Okay. Okay. So you said, I believe I am the black sheep in my family and many other places. I have done a lot of healing after becoming a mother and moved physically far away from my family. Did sound healing, etc. Great mood, great money flow, very happy home with my son once I moved closer to my family. Downhill since then. I've lost all that I worked for, including the confidence in myself and my financial security. I have ran into nothing but nightmares romantically, and for a while even felt my connection to source was completely blocked. I love sound healings, and your subliminals have been helping me get back to myself, it seems, but still feeling the spiritual warfare sent to me. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I just want to hold space for that. That sounds very hard. It sounds like you're also going through an energy of gaslighting, because you mentioned I feel like you answered your own question. I'm not even going to answer your question about whether or not you are being energetically vamped off of. I would just ask you to just read that statement that you just wrote out to me and you'll know the answer. But what I'm seeing here is that there's an energy of gaslighting. This is how, gaslighting is how the concealment of information gets perpetuated the most. It's through the process of gaslighting. Okay. Now, what's interesting is right around the times of the pandemic and when folks were waking up more, you want to know what the most searched word was in 2021? It was gaslighting. That was the most searched word in 2021. What that shows you was that there was a mass consciousness shift on the planet where people understood that they were being lied to in ways that they didn't quite understand before. Do y'all want to know the origin of the word gaslighting? Do you know what movie it comes from? It comes from an old school 1930s movie called Gaslight. And in the movie, this guy is diabolical. He diabolical. He marries this woman that he doesn't really like. I forgot. He's trying to get rid of her. I think he wants her money. I forgot the full details of the plot. But what's very clear is that he hates this woman that he married. But he has to be diabolical in such a way that he can't like kill her. He needs her gone though. So what he decides to do is to make her crazy. So he does little diabolical things throughout the movie to move her stuff around, to do little things to her out in the background, and then to watch her crash out. And then he comes to the rescue to be like, are you okay? Like, do we need to get you a doctor? Does that the whole movie. That's where the term gaslight came from. It's an old term, but for some reason in 2021, all of a sudden it was the most searched term, okay? Because there was a consciousness shift. And yet, you know, sometimes it just depends on where you're at in the algorithm. You can go back into a state of a sleep state. You can forget who you are. It seems like you had a lot more confidence and a lot more energy and a lot more empowerment, and you were a lot more in your yes away from your family. But you get close to certain familial bloodlines, right? And you get in a web. You're connected in with the web. There's a web weaver in your family as well, a more of an arachnid consciousness that, let's just say, is the root user of the family. And they will weave different webs as well. And if you wear the mark, well, then those webs will work out and weave in a particular way for your demise. And it needs to be that way in these structures so that the sacrifice program continues. Because they're not going to take the fall. That's going to be you. So the best thing that they can do is to watch you crash out, and they'll feed on that too. They'll get energy from that. The best thing they can do is watch you crash out and gaslight you and make you think you're going crazy. You know, we want to feel guilt sometimes with people who were there for us. You know, sometimes there are people that come into our lives and they're there for us at our worst moments. And then we feel as though we owe them a debt after that. Because we think to ourselves, well, they were there for me when I was crashing out the most, when I was the most down and out. So I owe them something. Think about that. That's an interesting form of energy vampirism that you're in with that. And stop looking at the people who are there for you when you are at your worst. Those are the ones you got to look side-eyed and do a little private investigation. We just got out of a Scorpio full moon. I'm feeling that Scorpio energy, okay? Scorpio is the realm of private investigator. That's the realm of detective, okay? You got to look at the people who are there for you when you are at your worst. Were they there for you when you were at your best? Usually they're not. They're nowhere in sight when you're at your best. There's no energy for them there. What? No, they're going to be there for you when you are the most down and out. That's where their fun begins. Okay? So, yeah, you know the vibes. You know the answer to that question. You would just need to get out. Like, figure out a way out of that situation. Figure a way away from the family, because it seems like you're in a web. You got to get yourself out of the web. Physical proximity matters. It does. lay low for a bit. I mean, I get how this works, right? You are in a low point in your life. You maybe don't have anywhere to go, or so you think, You don't have anywhere to go. You know, usually you're financially drained, because vampirism is very much based upon economics, because it's not actually about the physical money, it's the energy. So you're zapped or tapped out, probably financially, in these sorts of scenarios. It's all orchestrated this way. You know, when I was in that situation, I connected with the realm of the spiders. The spiders got me out. I was just writing about this recently, because, you know, I visited a spider realm, and, you know, I sometimes I have to get out of the polarity of spiders. They're going to have their own life. They deserve their own energy. But, you know, I've seen the positive and the negative side of spiders. I've seen the tangled web of that spiders weave, or people who wear the spider consciousness weave. I've had to get myself out of some really gnarly cobwebs and all that stuff. But I've also seen, like, you know, spider consciousness can support you with weaving a web, that, like, making a way out of no way. I went to the spiders. It was very effective and very quick, and they let me know that they did it. They let me know, like, no, we want you to know it was us, okay? But yeah, I'll talk about spiders in another frequency. But yeah, that is something, if you are tangled in a web, you can always utilize the same energy that oppressed you to free you. So it looks like you're in a weird web. So utilize that web energy to reverse polarize, okay? This is where we get into spiral vampirism. Now, for folks who are coming in, just keep like putting your questions in. I'm gonna answer them, or, you know, any comments, anything that's coming up, yeah, put it down. I'll get to it for sure. But I want to bring in the frequencies of Inanna. So I recently channeled a book around Inanna's love letters, and, you know, she's known as being like a really vampiristic goddess, you know, very diva, very much about, like, I want the world. I remember that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory song with that girl, that little selfish girl who's like, I want the world, I want the whole world, I want to lock it all up in my pocket. That's my bar of chocolate, give it to me, don't care how, I want it now. That's a frequency of Inanna for sure. And I was looking at her side-eyed for a bit too, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with you like that. Like, you be doing a lot of dirt. I'm not sure, you know. And but, you know, going into that frequency, I learned a lot about this energy of the 360 degrees of love. And her big thing is that love is vampirism. Love is vampirism. And I was like, yeah, but to what end? Like, I also hear, like, your frequency can throw weird love curses and spells on people, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And she's like, I represent the 360 degrees of love. She's known as the lady of the largest heart. Okay, she's known as the lady of the largest heart. And love is a frequency used in war. It's a war frequency. Okay, so you would utilize the frequency of Inanna to make sure that you're embodying a 360 degree experience on this planet, and utilizing your heart outside of energy harvesting. And you would do that through activating the frequency of vampirism through the heart. And this goes into this energy of spiral vampirism as well. If you're in a situation that's very disempowering, that's meant for you to lose, that's meant for you not to prevail, that's meant for you to crash out, okay, you would enact more of a frequency of vampirism, meaning I have the wholeness and I have the full 360 degree perspective of what's happening. I can hold that frequency and I can absorb anything that's coming my way and not be fragmented by it, and utilize it as energy force until we're at neutral. I'm not going to lie, when I first encountered this frequency, it was very difficult. I was having a really difficult time matching her frequency because it felt too total. It's like, this is too much, you know, because I had been fragmented in so many different ways, and a lot of it had been done through the heart, through what I'm calling hive heart, okay? So it was hard. I go more, I do a live on this. There's a live I did specifically on this that you can look at for more information about that experience specifically. But she says love is vampirism because it's this idea of mastering energy and being able to meet anything that's opposing you and bringing it to neutral. So depending upon the frequency or degree of what is opposing you is what is the frequency you'll meet it at to neutralize. So that could sometimes be a warfare energy, okay? That could sometimes be a compassion energy. You know, this is also going into the energies of Kuan Yin. They talk about the many hands of Kuan Yin and how she has 1,000 arms. And it's this ability, her biggest strength is this compassion, this large-heartedness, to be able to meet the frequency of anything that's coming towards her and bring it to neutral. Bring it to that cosmic force. It's a cosmic energy. Okay, but if all you know is polarity and all you know is division, or if all you know is victimhood, that energy could feel like a threat. It could feel like too much. It could feel like you're not even meant to embody that. That's not even for you. That's where you're fragmented and that's where you're divided. That's what I learned through these frequencies of Inanna. But she was really clear. She said love is vampirism. And what she was really clear on saying is that, you know, you want to look at the people who are more caught up in the goth culture on this planet, right? Like they're a little gothy. I went through my goth phase too. Goth was too expensive though, because I was like really into goth like when I was in my 20s. But like, yo, look, vampires, they got the funds. So their little goth outfits was a little too expensive for my little young 20s, okay? Doing program coordinating and education, so I couldn't keep up with the goth fashions. I'm like, I can't go full in goth with that, you know? And also I was living in LA at the time, so they extra out there, you know what I mean? But I had my little goth phase and whatnot. But one thing that she was saying and sharing with me is that like, we want to think that people who go into more of that dark energy, that they are more on the evil side per se. But she was saying like they're more in touch with their heart space, because a lot of the beings out there that will make love seem like it's only light, they are stuck more in division on this planet. Whereas beings who are focusing more on that dark energy, the dark matter energy of blackness, okay? Black is full spectrum. It has all the colors. So they are actually more large-hearted sometimes because they understand the 360-degree experience of love. But beings on this planet who hold that frequency a lot of times will get targeted or get seen as evil or get seen as whores a lot of times. That's, you know, if you start getting into the frequencies of the erotic arts and what those women who engage in that, what they actually do, the healing codes they actually possess, you can actually see why they get demonized a lot, okay? But there's a reason why that's the world's oldest profession, as they say. You know, prostitutes were used at a time when soldiers were coming back from war. They were healers, they were doctors, okay? Because they were able to hold the frequency of 360 degrees and meet those beings that they were working with, their clients, at whatever frequency and not be able to fragment themselves. This was more of a healer-doctor frequency back in the day. Some beings still hold that frequency. That's why, you know, that's a particular profession that I don't think that's ever going out. If anything, it's going to become more high caliber in the times to come, I believe, because the ones who are the most skilled in that line of work, they know the 360 degrees of love and they can literally revive people. It's not just about the physical act of sex, like what they've shown in pornography and whatnot. It goes way beyond that. But that's a form of energetic vampirism, because the way that they're able to transform their clients during that process is they can literally absorb distortion. And they can do it without fragmenting. They can like absorb that distortion and it doesn't lessen them. It actually empowers them. So it's a both and. So it's like the person who came to them was in a lot of pain. You know, a lot of times it's emotional pain. We want to think that, you know, the men who utilize these services, I'm focusing on men for some reason right now. We want to think that the men that utilize these services is all about physical stuff to them. It's not. Even if they're acting like it is, it's not. It's because they have certain wounds. They have emotional wounds. They have spiritual wounds. This happens a lot with massage therapists as well. Massage therapists have that same kind of frequency. Okay. And yeah, they are able to hold that frequency of a compassion, that 360 degrees of love. It's a vampiric current, and whoop, it's like suck out anything that is in distortion, that's keeping that person out of neutrality. And then they can do it without feeling depleted because they're that well versed in energy, okay, manipulation. And then they can actually feed on that energy too. So it's a win-win. This is the stuff I learned from Inanna. Okay. So this is the vampiric current of love. So it's not, vampirism is not all bad. I think a lot of us have seen vampirism from more of a negative framework, and we've been wounded by it. But there's another side, and anybody can hold this current. So no matter what, if you're a victim, you can utilize the frequency of vampirism to propel yourself out of a victim script. And you're kind of actually need to do that. You are going to need to accrue a lot of energy. You'll have to quickly get well versed at the manipulation of energy. So anything that's coming towards you, doesn't matter what it is, hate, vitriol, whatever. Okay, I'm taking it. And you set the intention. Just set the intention every day before you go outside. If you're in a weird warfare scenario, any energy that comes at me today is going to be for propelling me, and make sure you have a goal in mind. Make it clear. Whatever your goal is, I'm going to use it as fuel to do this. Okay. And so wherever you're at, same thing. Start doing this when you're in the grocery store. You know how you go into some, like for me, I really can't, used to, now I can go anywhere. I used to not be able to like going to Walmart. I was like, oh, there's something weird about this place. I don't like being here. You know what I mean? Like there's some frequencies that are meant to zap you. There's certain, or if you end up on the train or on the plane, the airport, these places, large amounts of people. But if you start coming at this knowing that vampirism is happening everywhere anyway, so then you say, any energy that I encounter at this place, if you have to do a lot of traveling, if you have to be around a lot of people, okay, any energy that I encounter at this place, I'm going to compost it. I'm going to fuel it into what my goals are. Okay. And do it from a place, like any distorted energies. You don't have to take away from people who are feeling good or who are in neutrality, who are in a Zen state. You don't even have to do that. You could be like, you know what, any distorted energies, or even it depends upon how coherent you are in your frequency. But you have the potentiality to set an intention of like any distorted energies that beings are feeling. If you can hold that frequency of coherence, okay, I'm at this public place. People are going to be feeling all kinds of ways. Some people are going to be angry. Some people are going to be impatient. Some people are going to be feeling really bad. Some people are going to be crying for no reason. Who knows why? Okay. Any of that energy that keeps people out of neutrality, I'm going to absorb it, and I'm going to filter it to and compost it. You can do that. If you have to be coherent. You have to not be too super fragmented. Okay. Because if you're coming at this from the place of, which I've done many times as well, of like, oh, I'm traveling. Oh my gosh, I have to be around all these people. Oh, there's probably going to be all these energy harvesting thing. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? For me, I used to have to wear sunglasses everywhere because I knew there was a weird energy thing going on with eyes. So I would just be notorious for sunglasses on. Wherever I went, I had to have my sunglasses on. So I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't do that anymore. I was just realizing it's been months since I've purchased a pair of sunglasses. And I don't want to. I'm like, that's weird because actually, no, that's not true. I did just buy a pair of sunglasses because they were real cute. But it was for the style. It used to be like a requirement for me to go and be out and about as I needed my sunglasses on. Yeah. So But it's also about, me now having more of a refined relationship with energy. I don't feel like I need to protect my eyes anymore. Like, that's not a thing I have to worry about. So I've been on that other side of the spectrum of like, oh no, I'm going to be vamped off of when I go to this place or that place. But when you reverse polarize, it could be, I'm full. I'm in a state of fullness. I don't need to worry about being divided. I don't need to worry about being fragmented. If anything, any place that I go fuels me. And I can actually be a support, and balance out the energies. Okay? This is a more refined sense of energy manipulation. Because when you start having the eyes to see, you can feel when people are targeting you to vamp off of you. I remember this happened to me when I was in Santa Cruz, California earlier this year. And which has its own little vampire subculture out there. And I was at this hotel and I was in this pool. And I could just feel like me and this dude, this older dude, we were on opposite ends of the pool, but I could feel him. Like we went out in a whole energetic warfare through the pool. I'm like, nope, I feel exactly what you saw. I was like, look, we're in a vamp war right now. When you start having the eyes to see and you start reverse polarizing and connecting more with that frequency, and so that person was like, oh, wait, she's not the one. Okay, I can't vamp off of her like that. Okay, never mind, I had to bring him to neutral. Okay, but it doesn't always have to be warfare. It could also be, you know what, there's a lot of imbalance here. There's a lot of anxiety here. Let me balance it out a bit. So this is an art of energy manipulation that a lot of us are going to have to learn so that, number one, we're not getting energy harvested to a state of depletion. I started this conversation talking about an old friend of mine where, literally, I hadn't seen her in a while. And then when I was waking up, I saw her and I fainted. I was like, oh, she's working with something else. And I always knew she had a little vampire in her, but I couldn't quite fully understand it. But once I had clear eyes to see, I'm like, oh, this is the reason why. Another thing, let's talk some more about the psychology of vampires. Vampires love to go out. You know how I was just talking about what you can do when you're out in public places. So some people, like, you'll know that you're dealing with like a vampire if they love to be out in the club. So that friend of mine, man, like back in the day when I was a partier, she would always convince me to go out. We was always going out and stuff, But I was like, and when I would go to raves and stuff, I'd always come back like super tired and all that stuff. Like she could keep going and go. Some people, they get off on that, They need the club vibes. And no shade. It's just knowing what you're dealing with, okay? And making sure you're in your sovereignty. Because, if that were to happen, I'm sure I could have the density to chill with her now and there would be no me fainting. Because I've learned more about the art of energetic manipulation, okay? So these are like some more sophisticated ways we need to start discussing what energy is and how energy exchange happens. It levels the playing field, okay? Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, so Divine Femme says, wow, my moon is 18 degrees. This is empowering. Yes, my Venus is 18 degrees. So let me show you how this plays out if you're unconscious of, in my old chart, it was 8. See, my Venus was 18 degrees Scorpio conjunct Pluto in the 6th house. Like, whew, that was a crazy placement. And I was unconscious. I was connected to vampiric energies, but when you're unconscious of it, it works against you. You become other people's feeding source. Okay? So what does that mean? So for me, it just meant I was caught up in vampiric love contracts. So I was always attracting beings where they were a piece of work. They were a project. Man, I could not stop attracting projects. But they want to be like, it's because it's your vibrational frequency and you don't love yourself enough and that's part of it. But there's also a Mark of Cain program happening on this planet where people are actually benefiting from it. So nice try. Okay, so I kept on attracting projects, and it wouldn't just be love, you know, my love relationships, also my friendships too. Most of the people who hate me, like the old friends, it's because I stopped talking to them. It's not even like most of them, like maybe with a couple exceptions, but for the most part, I'm pretty confident that if I called some of the, like, you know, one of them up, like, hey, like, I was thinking, let's talk, let's chat. Oh, they would be up on it, like, when, where, let's go. I've always had that effect, and I saw it as a curse, y'all. You know, because there's a thin line between love and hate. I knew about that 360 degrees of love early. You know, people get a little hooked on you. It was like a weird morphine sort of free. Ugh, you know what I mean? Like vampires, like, you know how they like to like suck blood and, you know, like, it's like that. It's like, you can't take away my fix. What are you talking about? So that was the way I was like marked, you know, in the simulation. So yeah, most people, like most of my old friends, they got beef because like I was like, deuces, peace, and usually I just had to like go no contact and just, you know, maybe send a note, but I already knew how it was gonna work. Like we gotta detach. That would happen at work too. If I would like quit a job, man, people would throw tantrums, hissy fits. Like it was more than just about my work performance. Like I was cutting off their feeding source. So it was just really difficult, you know. And that runs on my maternal line too, but I didn't know how to use it, you know, having more of a 360 degree approach, working with the frequencies of Anana, and then also like working on going to neutral with my birth chart. I get it now. I understand the intricacies and the sophistication of that energy. Okay. And that it doesn't have to be you being siphoned off of. It could also be you utilizing your energy of love as a superpower. Okay, but you need to be able to match that sophistication of the 18th degree to do that. And if you're wearing any sacrificial marks, your food, and you taste really yummy. Also, do you have a lot of like mosquitoes coming at you? Mosquitoes used to be all up on me. You know, I'm in South America right now, not getting mosquito bites, which is weird. I haven't gotten any mosquito repellent either. It's kind of interesting. I'm like, usually they have a field day with me if I'm in a tropical climate, but I'm not having to do that. Yeah, there's a coding issue related to those things. Let's see. Okay, Midnight Rose for you. Hi, I was in your last night. Hi, yeah, I remember. You said, I watched your video on embodying the death goddess archetype. What archetype do you transcend after mastering the Hecate archetype? You mentioned something like that. But did you hear me talk about Hecate? Because I think I talked about it in that video, right? Oh, okay. Wepwawet, because I talked about Wepwawet, who's the opener of the ways. So Hecate is the keeper of the keys. But you don't want to, you're in locksmith energy. You're in ancient smith energy. That was a creation of the same beings that wanted to keep you out of the gates. You want to get into opening the ways. So that would be the frequency of Wepwawet, who is the wolf or the jackal. This was the energy before the dog star of Sirius. Okay, that's what you want to get to before the dog star. You know, dogs were genetically engineered. And they're guards, they're guardians, okay? But if you're working on crossing dimensional thresholds, you can't be doing dog star stuff all day, okay? That's gonna get in your way. They're gonna cock block you from where you're really trying to go. That dog star energy, you know? I've worked with Hecate a lot and have found her helpful, but I don't want to get stuck in grids that sound spooky. Yeah, think about it. Hecate got all them dogs on her. I know about the Hecate program. You hear them dogs in the background? Look, it's gotten better, but definitely since I've been doing the Stargates work, I've been in a lot of environments where dogs are just barking everywhere, you know? And, you know, we're going through a transition right now. But yeah, I've been in places where I'll just be traveling. I'll just be on a walk by myself. It's happened several times. And a dog will just start following me. And all of a sudden, a dog's walking with me. Like, me and the dog are hanging out. Like, it's like, yeah, you're basically my owner now. Let's go. Where are we going next? It's like, I'm not your owner. Please stay there. I'm going. Please, please. You know, constantly. All right. Those are like watchdog programs too. You know, because there are certain beings that really, really need you to stay in your sleep state. You're messing with their mode of transportation. They got places to go outside of this realm. And because they stopped going to neutral, they started playing neutrality without actually being neutral. They couldn't have their own 360-degree experience. So their way of hacking that was to utilize other beings as their mode of transportation. This is where energy harvesting has gotten a little too much. It's now from a state of depletion. We only know vampirism from a state of depleting others. There is another side of vampirism, and for beings who are going to be reverse polarizing and going to neutral, you're going to need to utilize vampirism from a 360-degree approach, but it's going to support with an ecological balance on this planet and beyond. Because some beings, they got too wild with it. They didn't know where to stop. They got drunk off the blood. You know, a good show to watch for the psychology of vampires is called Shadowhunters. I love that show. And just kind of watch how becoming a vampire happens, and then also the way beings who become vampires get attached to the person who turned them into a vampire. There's an interesting, weird connection with that. So it can be very, very toxic sometimes, and you know, the only way you can defend yourself is to feed as well. Then it takes away the victimizer script, and it brings y'all to neutral. That's the only thing you can really do in that scenario. So it's an ecological balance for the whole planet. It's good for the whole planet. The more people start practicing energetic vampirism, which is really the manipulation of energy and knowing when your energy is being manipulated and going to neutral in those moments. Because a lot of beings, a lot of bloodlines have been wilding out. And they've been doing it because we've been ignorant to how energetic exchange works on this planet. Now, a funny show to watch to learn about the dynamics of vampirism is called What We Do in the Shadows. It's on Comedy Central. It's a comedy about vampires. It's hilarious. And there's two characters you should watch out for. One is the energy vampire on the show. Everybody else is like more of the traditional vampire, but there's one energy vampire in this vampire house who loves like annoying people, loves bothering people, causing minor annoyances at work. So he's like a supervisor at work. He tells boring stories. He does little things to get on people's nerves, but he does it to feed on them. And it's really, really funny and true, because it's like, dang, we all know people like that. And yeah, like there are beings out there who are annoying, like who are at work. Okay. They're at your places where you're at, and they will do little things to annoy you so they can feed off of you. That's a part of the vampire program as well. So, and that's why, you know, these school systems are set up the way they are. These work systems are set up the way they are. Certain beings need to consistently feed. It's the same reason why, as I was mentioning earlier, the way the news happens the way it does. There's certain beings who must consistently feed. So we want to think, oh, it's a corrupted, you know, for some reason society got distorted. Why has this happened? Why? No, it's happening to serve a certain set of beings. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's so crazy because right after COVID is when it all started. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And two of the people I believe to be attacking me are narcissists. Lots of gaslighting goes on. The make her crazy just hit so hard. Watch that movie if you can find it. Watch that movie Gaslight. Just look at sometimes it's good to find a movie where something is happening to you that you can see in the movie. It can give you another perspective. Oh, but the other character I was going to mention on that show, What We Do in the Shadows, to watch for, this is the big one. There's a character on that show. His name is Guillermo. He is basically the servant of the vampires. He's a human, and his dream is to be a vampire. All he wants in this world is to be a vampire. So he's put up with their BS for years. He waits on them hand and foot. The vampires treat him like garbage, okay? They don't really pay him well. Like they're just extremely rude to him, okay? But he puts up with it because he really, 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 really wants to be a vampire, okay? And they always kind of say, yeah, maybe one day we'll make you a vampire, but they have no intention on making him a vampire. And that's the running joke in this show, What We Do in the Shadows, is that these vampire assistants, that they are also there hanging on to these vampires because they just want to be a vampire one day. And they always get strung along like, yeah, maybe one day we'll turn you into one. But the running joke is they will never turn them into a vampire because the vampires love hierarchy. If they turn them into a vampire, then who's going to wait on them hand and foot? It's going to bring them to neutral. So they're never going to actually turn their servants into vampires because they lose their servants. That's a code. They're telling you a really big code in that show. Now watch the character progression of Guillermo in that show, because he actually turns into their worst nightmare. He actually becomes a weird vampire hunter. And then they keep him around because they're afraid of him. Like, it turns out that he's a vampire, like vampire hunting runs in his family bloodline. And he knows the special sauce to defeat any vampire. And he's done it before. Usually he does it accidentally. He seems really innocent. And he'll just end up in a scenario where he destroys like really powerful vampires. And it becomes really clear that he can also take out his master too. And his master peeps that and like, you know, is afraid of him. So now they just kind of keep him around, but they sleep with one eye open, you know? So it's funny because in a way, Guillermo had to turn himself into his own vampire. He watched them really closely. He knows exactly how they move. He knows exactly how they operate. So with that knowledge, he can actually take them out. So it kind of brings them to neutral in a weird way as well. So it's an interesting character progression. That show gives you some insight around the psychology of a vampire. Yeah, watch that movie. Heavy on feeding off of it. I've been isolating and keep hearing about all the toxic drama going on while I'm not around. Right now you are describing my mother. They are there for you the most when you're down and out. You know, some beings had to be placed as monitors. They needed to monitor certain essences on the planet. So just like, okay, I mentioned earlier how the news is a sort of vampiric frequency, right? Like you see all this negative news constantly. And you think, wow, like you can't put any positive news stories in? Why? But then I was tapping into the hive consciousness because you start being able to tap into certain energies in the parallel. And I started to see things through their eyes. And I was like, oh, you guys, this is your feeding time. Yeah, it's your feeding time. Not everybody's negatively impacted by the news. Some people fuel from, or I should say, some beings fuel from it, you know? So from that same standpoint, there are certain beings who are put in place in certain family bloodlines to make sure that the family doesn't evolve, to make sure problems occur. You know, there are certain beings who are connected with certain hive consciousnesses. I will share what that actually is at a later date. They are connected with certain hive consciousnesses, and their job, their role is to keep certain beings down. That's their only role. So when this being, and you'll know, because when this being is around, crazy shit happens. It's always a story with them. It's never their fault if you ask them. There's always a reason. It's always somebody else's fault, but there's always drama around them. There's always warfare around them. They're always going to flip it and say that they're the ones who's experiencing the warfare. They're targeted, this and this and that. But if you look closer, okay, and you peep beneath the surface, they're keeping things as they need to be. And a lot of times these beings are going to be put in around the beings who have the mark of Cain too. Okay. Because there's a whole energy harvesting scenario with that as well. Okay. And so, yeah, this is why certain beings are like people who identify as chosen ones, like they'll feel as though they're being put down by their family members and that their family members are somehow benefiting from it. It's true, but they're not like really your family. Like they don't share your same essence, you know, y'all are not of the same essence. Okay. So blood is not thicker than water. You know, sometimes blood itself is a part of the glamour magic. These are some of the secrets of vampirism. Okay. No contact with my mom since February. No contact with my narcissistic ex-lover for over a year. I have a beautiful home with my son, so we have a place to stay and what we need 100% financially. Yes, you're welcome. I love that. And just think about that. Think about, you know, where you're at when you're who you're around when you're doing the best. A lot of people who have been caught up in these situations, it's usually away from all family members. And that's not to throw shade on family, you know. They sometimes don't even know what they're holding, what programs they're holding. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't, though, you know. And so you just stepping into that environment can activate certain web works, you know, as it's supposed to. Now, what you want to do, though, is bring any energies that you have with your mom to neutral. Because most likely than not, she has certain aspects of you, depending upon how you choose to evolve in your path, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need those things back. You're going to need to do a retrieval. You'll need to do it from a neutral space. She's not the enemy. Doesn't matter what she did to you. There's a ranking thing that you need to adhere to with the person whose womb you came out of. They are kind of like your God until you cultivate yourself in a particular path to where they're not. But until that, you get to that point, you need to be neutral with them, because you can curse yourself, you can hex yourself sometimes by holding negative feelings towards them, even if they're doing all those terrible things. This is the ranking system of the simulation. You came out of her womb, she's kind of your God until you work through those energies. That's when you need to get into that master builder frequency. Okay, that's a frequency of 22 degrees. Hey, Lulu, yes, you're welcome. Okay. Oh, hey, people from yesterday. Okay. Like 4 of y'all came back. Okay, awesome. That's cool. Okay, Maganja Masupu. I'm mmming and ahaing along with you as you speak. Yeah. Okay, mosquitoes love me. I have to use certain products to ward them off. Cloak. Gots to reverse polarize. I feel it too, because I'm like, really? Y'all come for me way too much. It was too much. I couldn't step outside until, you know. But it's it's how are you coded, you know? And this is when you get into the realm of vampirism, scent is very important. So there's actually an energy related to perfuming in general. So look for people who are really big on perfumes. They got some vampiric sort of frequencies, and that's not a negative thing, you know? It's just like you're getting into the realm of pheromones and scent. It's a primal. You're getting primal when you start getting into the perfumes and stuff. So people who are master perfumers, master chemists, those sorts of alchemists, vampirism is a form of energetic alchemy. So, that's going to actually go hand in hand, that fragrance alchemy and that energetic alchemy, okay, and being able to inspire the senses through scent alone. And then also it's like your pheromones too. So being able to concoct certain scents that go with your pheromones and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm with the whole wearing pheromones thing. I haven't tried that yet. I do know that there are certain scents that will inspire certain people to like be drawn to you, but I haven't gotten into wearing external pheromones. I feel as though like I don't want to wear other people's pheromones. I would rather work through the alchemical process of cultivating my own in such a way. That's how I feel instinctively. Because now I'm, as you get into the realm of like hive consciousness, which, as you get into these more sophisticated forms of the way energy works, it's hive. It's all a hive. Okay, different hives. It could be more serpentine. It can be more, it could be more like spidery. It could be all kinds. But you're getting into more of a sophisticated realm of energy. It's a higher ranking sort of energy, okay? And so smell becomes really important, and your smell becomes very important as well. So I went through a whole process as I was preparing to cross dimensional thresholds last year, where I was getting the insight around etheric perfume. And basically I just had to work with different siren energies, fae energies, to just help to neutralize my scent. I was marked with all this ickiness in the etheric, in the astral, that I just had to keep cleansing and clear. I had to be made aware and perceive. It was when a certain aspect of my inner eye was turning on, my inner scent as well. The nose too. There's like a nose activation that goes on with this as well. And yeah, there was just a lot of clearing I needed to do with etheric perfumes. So yeah, I think I'm gonna that's gonna be something I do soon. And we're gonna focus on scent on Patreon soon. I think that would be, because they give us all these products, right? Like, hey, you wear this makeup and wear this perfume, and yeah, that's cool, sure. But then there are other forms of energetic hygiene. There's energetic hygiene. You could have the cutest perfume or the cutest makeup on, but like, what's going on in the etheric? How do you smell etherically? That's really important. That's gonna determine the quality of your dreams. There's these beings out there that's how they find their next target. So you need to work through those scent signatures, and then you want to work on creating your own signature scent as well. But this is a process of turning yourself into the undead, because if you're marked as dead or lost at sea, if you're caught up in the maritime law program, which most of the human population is, especially in the Western hemisphere, well, you have that in your scent. That's a literal scent signature that you have, that you're going to need to alchemize as well. Okay, or the same thing with that mark of Cain frequency. That's a scent signature that you'll need to alchemize. I'm trying to think. I can't think off top. There is one subliminal I have on Bandcamp. It's called the Star Crown Protocol. It has like some bee symbolism and a girl wearing a star crown. That has a lot of the frequencies to get you caught up in more of the beehive frequency. Okay, you want to start working through certain energies, hive frequencies that go based on pheromones, and working through those energies. I think I have another subliminal on Bandcamp. It's an inner earth subliminal, and that gets you, the ant totem and the bee totems work a lot. You need to work through the insect realms to get into inner earth spaces. All of the little creatures that they tell you aren't significant or aren't important, if you were to reverse polarize that, they would be the most important. Okay. I was telling this story a couple months ago on Patreon, but when I met up with the ant realms, first of all, I knew I had a very strong connection with them in other lifetimes. And it was like family, but I felt this overwhelming sense of sadness when I saw them, and I just kept crying, and I'm like, why am I crying so much? And they're just like, they were showing me mental pictures of all of them that I've killed throughout the years. Because I think I realized, like, oh no, this is like a very familial aspect. I was connected with them in other realms, in other lifetimes. So I had to have a little ceremony of like going to neutral with them, of like, I'm sorry, look, I know I killed a lot of y'all with that little Raid ant spray and all that, So yeah, but these are the frequencies that are going to help you cross dimensional thresholds. It's not going to be the big giant frequencies that they tell you about. Okay, high positively blissful mystic. I've always been that one where people are highly addicted to me. I had to go no contact every single time. Yeah, it's a look. Some of y'all need to be going neutral because your love style, your love signature is nuclear. You can make people go woo 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 woo. I know it. Look, Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio in the 6th house. Yo, it was deep. But there's something else under that. You know, now that I'm reverse polarizing and having that 360-degree thing, I'm like, oh, this is a superpower. This isn't a curse. But if you don't know how to wield it, it's like having like nukes on you, you know, and they could just pop off at any moment, you know. So it can cause people to have such strong, you know, if you have a certain love frequency that goes really deep and that's addictive and that's at that vampiric degree, because I didn't know what 18 degrees meant, you know. But if you don't know how to manipulate that energy, you can make people like they're addicts. Like, I need my fix. Like, where's she at? I need her. Where's she at? Time and time again, I've seen it. Okay, no friends, because it always becomes a situation where the person becomes attached energetically and it's way too heavy. Thank you for sharing this truth. Yo. You just need to become sophisticated in the art of vampirism, because it's being weaponized against you. But here's how it works when you go neutral. The same energies that oppressed you can be your superpower. It can be ways you retrieve your energy, the way you retrieve your essence. So this is the power of neutrality. This is the alchemy, the healing balm of neutrality. Okay, look, we said I have a Chiron Leo in 17 or 18 degrees in the 9th house. So that's, if you have 18 degrees in the 9th house, then it's giving double 9. So that's even more powerful, because it's like the 18th degree is a more sophisticated degree of 9. Yeah, and I'm going to go more into that frequency, but it's like you need to overcome the mark of Cain, the mark of sacrifice, thinking you need to be sacrificed in order to rest in your 18, to rock with that frequency. And you need that frequency to become a member of the undead. You must become undead. Okay. And then the 18th card in the tarot deck is the moon. Okay. So that's also a key as well, and around what you'll find in the 18th dimension, what you'll find in the 18th degree. Okay. All right. Oh my God. What we do in the shadows is where I went to get into understanding what vampires are. Look, we know. It's a vibe. I love that show. That show's hilarious. The emotional vampire was especially illuminating, a funny, sad story, right? And yeah, and when because he also like dated that other emotional vampire, and then he got out vamped. Okay, this is another energy. So in this story, this energy vampire dude that I was talking about, who hangs out at the office annoying people on purpose to zap their energy, he got caught up with an emotional vampire. He started dating an emotional vampire at work because she was taking all of his feeding source. She was draining everyone before he could get to them. So he's like, well, let me try dating her so we can team up and we could double drain them, you know? But what happened is that she out-vamped him, and she became too much for him. He had to leave her alone. That's a key right there. Okay? Vampires leave you alone when you're a vampire. That's the rule. It's a law of the jungle. Look, we getting primal with it. We're talking about scent signatures and smells and stuff like that. Okay, we getting wild with it. So okay, fine. You're a vamp, I'm a vamp. We all vamps, let's go. It's not fun. It's the same reason why those same vampires didn't want to turn Guillermo into a vampire. Well, then who are we gonna vamp off of? Like, who's gonna serve us? We're equal now. We're both vampires. We're both undead. Oh, that's not gonna work. Okay, so this is why we empower ourselves through this art of vampirism. And you can do this at any stage. If you're caught up in the victim script today, you can start vamping today. Spiral vampirism. I talk about this in The Architect is Her. Your sister used to do it to you all the time? Okay, well, look, check in on your sister. Okay, check in on her. Let's go. It's gonna be, just watch. You know what I mean? You can have some fun with it too, because you can just see. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to confront her. You just meet her at that same frequency, and then more gets revealed to you, and then you can see either maybe she just stops wanting to hang out with you all of a sudden. You know, that's usually what will happen. You know, your relationship will naturally get weird. They'll just leave you alone. You know. Colin Robinson. Yes. Shouts out to Colin Robinson. I am stuck in my husband's country right now. Okay. So you're in your husband's country. Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm sending you some spiral vampire. I'm sending you a spiral vampire fireball to wherever you're at. Okay. Catch it. Take it, run with it. You know, you can get out of any gnarly situation. You have that power and that frequency. If you utilize energy in any way, you have the power to manipulate it. Okay? It can be manipulated through you, or you could be an active agent. This is when we want to become agents. They tell us in the simulation how negative it is to become an agent. Oh, she's an agent. Sometimes you got to be an agent. That means you're being in your power. You know how they say agency, I have agency. It's you taking charge of the energy in the room or in the situation and making it work for you. This is when you also need to get more into the, vamp consciousness and spider consciousness work together. They do partner with each other. Because the more you learn about the hidden dynamics of the web work of the simulation, the more you understand the karmic feminine and the power that they hold and the way they move things on the game board. Okay, because you can't always be the dissenting voice that's saying, that's wrong, or you guys are vamping off of me. When you're playing, that's you playing checkers. You do get to a point of playing chess. And that's another thing that vampires love to do. They love to play chess. They love to play energetic chess. Look, I had to learn all this the hard way. I did it the other way. I did it the chosen one way. Got my ass kicked. Okay, I did all that. It don't work. You gotta play chess. All right, you get to this point. This is why, also wealthy people love to sue each other. They do it for fun. It's a part of the vamp scheme. Some people, they love suing other people. Okay, this is like a tennis match to them. Okay, so then there's this other energy of this is why you get into certain energies or clubs and stuff like that, and people make little side comments to each other, but then they smile in each other's face and they're like, let's do lunch, let's go out to tea. This is how they do. This is their little vamp game that they do. Okay, they're not going to be so out in public about it. This is where the energy of the spider comes in. The spider weaves the web through these sorts of things. And there's usually a matriarchal figure in those scenarios, which is weaving the webs behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So when you're outranked, because you're in a country that's not yours, so you don't probably know a lot of, you're going to have to tap into the energy of the spider. You're going to need to become a weaver. Yeah. You're going to have to play both sides. You know that song by Chief Keef? What's it called? Playing both sides, that's that shit I don't like. I used to love that song. A snitch, that's that shit I don't like. Sometimes you got to play both sides. Yes. If you're in a particular situation, these are some of the mysteries of the vampire. Okay, you got to start weaving your little web in the background. Okay, you're outranked. Okay, you're in a foreign country. Okay. Start working with the spider animal totem with that, because the spider is very big with magnetism, can weave their own architecture. They don't need anything. They create the silk. They generate the silk. Okay. They set up shop. They set up their web somewhere. They magnetize their prey to them. Okay. And they do all of that from their own self-sourcing architecture. So working with that frequency of the vampire, learning about the sophisticated energies around energy manipulation, plus with that architectural web work of the spider, can get you out of anything. Anything. It's all the dark. You got to go dark feminine with that. Okay, because you're outranked at that point. So you got to go dark feminine with it. Okay, yep, you said with a huge conscience, they scapegoated me and my kids. Okay. Got to play chess. Start watching those little shows. Oh, a good one to watch is Dynasty. Old school Dynasty from the 80s. Watch that. Watch Joan Collins. Yeah, that character, Joan Collins. She's a very big matriarchal spider energy. It was hard for me to watch her at first because it was triggering me because I had been on the other side of the web, okay? I was on the other side. I was like, oh my God, she's triggering me so much. I know exactly that consciousness. But then I was like, you know what? I'm not at neutral then. I need to take in the other side. Sometimes you need to go Joan Collins with it, okay? You need to be that sort of frequency. And one thing you can see about her in that show, she always got her way. Always. She was never in lack. She was, she always was getting what she needed. She was playing dirty, but sometimes when you're in certain vampiric realms, you got to speak that language. You know what I'm saying? What is the mark of Cain? So there's a biblical thing around, basically they say that the mark of Cain is as a result of Cain being the first murderer and killing his brother Abel. So they want you to believe that the mark of Cain is descendants of Cain who wear the mark of Cain. But it's not that, it's the opposite. It would be you being marked by a descendant of Cain, okay? And how that plays out, there's a lot of different conspiracy theories and stuff out there, we won't get into it too much in that. I do write about it a lot in the Star Goddess Codes and navigating the Dimension 2 specifically as it relates to that. Oh, thank you, Pretty Gritty. Yes, this is sick. I am in their country, just awakening to it. We are out. Good. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling purpley today. Yep, the perfume. That's me. I'm very into perfumes. I'm very particular. I'm not going to like a scent just because it's popular. And a lot of popular scents smell like alcohol, right? Yeah, I need to get into ouds again. I need to get me some ouds. Y'all know oud? That's the good stuff. My favorite perfumes are in the the Middle East, North Africa. From there. Oh, and then when I was in Ethiopia, yo, they do it different out there. Ethiopia is good with the incense and the resins, like I've never experienced before. But like Egypt and or like stuff from the Middle East, they be knowing. Yeah, they have that extra special sauce with the pheromones. But yeah, I want to get some new scents, and I want to get some ouds. So I got to figure out where to get some good ouds. You're in a major hive situation. So then that means you're in a hive. So that means you have access to hive consciousness. So what you now need to do is go through the weird game of rank and hierarchy and work with hive intelligences. If you're already in a hive, this is why you work with the insect realm. So spiders are a good start because you can bring the spider's probably being used against you, so you can start bringing the energy of the spider to neutral. Spiders help me as much as they trip me up and hex me up. They did help me to get to the pathway of neutrality. They guided me through different, and I had to neutralize polarity constantly with them. Because sometimes they would arrive really big and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a threat. And it's like, no, they're actually helping me. They're guiding me to certain places, But you got to get out of that fear of spiders, energy. Because they're pretty overwhelming because they're really powerful. But they're going to show you, they're not like completely your friends. But what they're going to do is they're going to show you where the web work is. And they're going to show you how it occurred and from what source. Okay, and then your job is to go to neutral. And then when you start getting more into the 8th dimensional frequency, they can work on your behalf. So at first, you're going to have to work with spiders to show you where the web work is, to bring that web work to neutral. And then you're going to, they're going to support you with getting to the 8th dimension. I utilize the realm of the spiders. They showed me the whole layout of the architecture I was in. They showed me exactly where I was the most tripped up and where I would need to go through. Like it was a literal game board. They showed it to me. And yeah, there was a big gnarly spider web. Like it was a very big karmic, it was like a karmic feminine frequency that I would need to get through. And sure enough, when I did pass a certain threshold on my way to the waters, a very karmic feminine frequency did meet me there. There are gatekeepers, you know. A lot of these are certain spiritualists that you'll encounter from time to time. There are gatekeeping frequencies, you know, and they can hold the gates. And you crossing dimensional thresholds takes away from their feeding source. So they might meet you there and look like a spiritual attack, but as long as you can match their frequency, then you pass through, you know. But there's going to be these like tests of like, can you match this frequency kind of thing. So you'll need to get through any fears you have of spiders, any polarized energies you have with spiders. I get a lot of headaches and a lot of discomfort around some fragrances. Yeah, you just got to find the ones that work for you. No friends, facts. I enjoy my own energy. Being in the hive is teaching me a lot. So that's another thing to learn about know about vampirism. If you're somebody who needs to be around people, you definitely are a vampire. Now, we all are vampires in different ways, but people who need to be around people are more unconscious vampires. So the idea is not to not be a vampire. It's to make sure that you are consciously a vampire. That brings us on a level playing field, okay? And then you can start getting more sophisticated at your own energetic manipulation at that point. Because there are other ways you can do that, you know, so that way you can be mindful of, okay, I know that I feed off of other people's energy. Let me make sure it's like going to a dinner. You know how you go to somebody's house for a dinner? You might be real hungry, but you're not going to take all the good pieces of food, whether it's if you're a meat eater or what. You're not going to take all the pieces of fish and leave nobody with anything else, right? Like you're going to, you know, pace yourself, right? Portion control. But if you are somebody who feeds off of other people and you know that and it's something you need, you can start doing this in a more beneficial way or holistic or balanced way. Okay, and you can start focusing more on neutrality, so you're not draining people when you go into situations, okay? Because we've all been in those situations with certain family members who drain us, right? And it's like, dang, like I don't have no energy after talking to this person. So you could be mindful. This could be a way of you expressing good manners in social situations, right? So that you can balance that out. And then maybe you do more things like go to the mall. I know we don't do malls that much anymore, but like go into a crowded area and just, you know, feed off of the energy of distortion. It could be like a vampire. Not vampire, vacuum. This is when we get into the frequencies of the galactic vacuum. Think of all the distortion people are walking around with, you know. You can set that intention of, I'm going to transmute this energy. I'm going to feed off of this energy and transmute it. So that way, when you're in a one-on-one conversation with somebody and you're going to lunch with somebody, you're not just vamping all out. You know what I mean? Like it can be done in a way that's a little bit more polite. We can have a little bit more manners when it comes to this because it's something that we're all doing. Some people don't know about it. Some people do. Some people are unconscious of it. Some people are very conscious of it. It's just about like a deeper sense of literacy on energetic hygiene and exchange. It's not about demonizing vampirism. It's about bringing it into consciousness. That's it. But you being somebody who you enjoy your own energy. You are somebody who very likely are feeling that way too, is because when you are in certain situations, you are getting vamped off of, you know what I mean? And so you find, wow, when I'm by myself or in my own energy, I feel more like myself, you know? And there's an energy of self-sourcing, you know, because you don't have to feed off of other people. You know, there are sophisticated forms of energy, like where you can also source your energy from the cosmos too. Like it doesn't have to come from physical beings as well. So I think that's another thing. We also want to get more into the cosmic energy because we can be also sourcing our energy from there too. And so then it's not really necessary to be around people at that point, but you're still fueling yourself as well. Girl, yes, please go in depth on how to use this for my highest good, because man, yes. So what, okay, thanks. Well, what do you mean? Like, use what part for your highest good? Give me an example. Okay. Oh, you're in Pakistan? You're catching it? Okay, what about a vampire husband who, okay, so your vampire husband's in Pakistan? Well, I mean, first of all, do you have 18 degrees in your chart? Does he have 18 degrees? Ooh, I don't know what happened with that. I guess I'm still on live. Okay. I had a weird light bulb thing, and now it's darker here. But both of the lights are still on? Okay, that's weird. Yeah, when you have a vampire husband, you'll just need to vamp off of him. You know, because, you know, there are beings who thrive on negativity. And so some beings could be like that more Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows. And they're vamping off of people feeling bad or people feeling irritated. There are a lot of emotional vampire husbands out there like that. Okay. So you would need to play chess in your own household. Personally, oh, that was my ring light. Hold on. All right, that's what it was. I'm like, what light turned off? Personally, I wasn't into it. Some people, I get it. You need to play chess in your own household. Like, you know, I realized for me, I was married to an energy vampire dude, okay? We had a very long past life situation that we had going on where we were destined to be married. That was clear. It was in our chart. It was already set up. It was an arranged marriage. It was weird. It was very much an arranged marriage. Like, I knew I was supposed to marry him. Like, yeah, it was already set up. Post-mortem contract. But that being said, as I started waking up and everything else, I could feel the drain, and I could feel that there was a harvesting. Like, he needed to argue. I didn't want to argue, but he needed it. He was that Colin Robinson frequency. He needed that, you know? And in retrospect, I guess I could have played chess, you know, and done I could have gotten really weavery, you know. He came from a maternal bloodline that was very spider and arachnid. He actually had an extreme fear of spiders, and I think that's why. And I guess I could have played chess. I just didn't want to, you know. I just wanted to heal. I just wanted to feel good. Definitely in my own house, you know. I don't want to be doing all that, but I do know there are a lot of folks that get caught up in situations where it feels like there's no way out, you know, and you feel like you just like have to deal with it. So it just depends on where you're at. For me, I can't advise, I wouldn't advise you what to do in that situation per se. It just depends on, you know, what your comfort level is. You would want to think about how much can you endure of that, you know. And I suppose if I was more in my conscious vampire, I could have vamped off. I could have met him at his frequency and his density and vamped off of him and I think we could have brought a lot to neutral, probably, actually. Yeah, so it just depends on where you're at in your alchemical process, you know, because some people, some people are so good at energetic manipulation that they can manipulate the whole dynamics of their relationship. And basically, this is the power of the dark feminine, and basically have their partner doing their bidding, everything that, you know, they require of them through extreme energetic manipulation. I was caught up in my light worker starseed, so I didn't think that was cool to do. And I still personally don't think I would go that route, you know, just because I really do like myself in my own energy, and I find marriage itself to be an energy, it's like too much of an energy harvesting situation. And I've been married many different lifetimes. So yeah, it just depends. You know, you got to figure out, you got to take your power back in that situation. You just need to figure out what that means for you. Exactly. I love that. A sovereign algorithm. I love that. Thank you. I need this. They set up major opportunities for suing. I'm fully blackballed from the groups. The matriarch is diabolical, poisoning food, doing a lot of magic for reals. I feel it all. Yeah, she the spider. It's very triggering, but just know you're dealing with more of an insect intelligence. You got to learn from that though. That's showing up because you are going to need to embody the spider at some point. Yeah, you're going to need to match that frequency at some point. That energy, you cannot fight the spider. You can't reject it. If you try to reject it, it's just going to come for you harder. You will need to learn the mysteries of the spider. Okay? And weave your own web. That's all you can do. And in the meantime, make sure you're doing something that keeps you in your power, whether that's stepping away from the situation or what have you, okay? Or vamping off of it, okay? And that you need to, no emotion. Your emotions must turn off. That's another thing, to do a lot of this energy, and it's a sophistication of your energy manipulation, because emotions are used to bring you into a script so you can be harvested from, okay? I've been in that experience of like, you know, popping off because I knew what was happening energetically. So then I pop off at somebody and then I'm the bad person. But it's like, y'all were doing but it's all a part of the whole trap, the whole setup. But you get to a point where you manage your emotions. You keep that in check. But you're going to have beings around you that are going to set you off. So it's like an extreme form of energetic diplomacy that you have to go through. And sometimes to prime yourself for that, you need to spend some time away from that situation. That's the best thing you can do, is for your peace of mind, is to remove yourself if you're able to. Joan Collins, Old Dynasty, 1980s, exactly. Yes, that show, that first season, I think I only got to season 2, like a little bit of season 2, but that first season tells you a lot about the way vampire culture works too. More from like a family elite standpoint. Yeah. You're done watching Dynasty, Joan Collins. Thank you. You're Saudi has good. Yeah, I haven't been to Saudi Arabia. I bet you their scents are really good. Yes. Oh, you have 3 toddlers? Yeah, you got your hands full being fed off of. Yeah. You teach and practice yoga? Oh, that's good, but you hate them all. Yeah. So then that could even be an energetic thing that you do. You hate them all? Start there. Can you go to neutral with them all? Can you flip the script? Because I know that's a big, certain places in the world, the mall is more popular. But, practicing your energetic hygiene, it's not always going to be you removing yourself. It starts there. And then at some point, you want to rise to the occasion and learn how to hold your own in a public space too, You said you feel the most neutral and at peace when by yourself. Yep. Oh, he's camping. So you have some time to yourself. Okay. Hey, gratitude. Yeah. Just take care of yourself. I would start small. Pretty gritty. 111. You got to start small with that. Your hands are full, you're tired probably, you just need rest, you know. See if you can, you know, it's good that you teach yoga. See if you can start with taking a day for yourself. See if you can arrange to have childcare. Can you, you know, what's the nanny situation? Can you advocate? I would start with advocating for childcare. Can you advocate for a nanny? Can you weave a web into where you must get a nanny? It somehow happens. Start there, because you need to get yourself replenished. And having 3 toddlers and whatnot, that we need to start with giving you more time and rest. That's where I would start with it. So start weaving a web for childcare. Because when you're in those energy harvesting situations, they're going to do everything that they can to keep you tired and depleted. So you come into them and being like, I'm so tired, I need a nanny, I need this, I need that. You got to be a little bit more like weavery. Think about that. How can you weave a web to where it's a must? You know, you need to, all right, we have an au pair now. Shoot, somebody lives with you. Okay, you got an au pair. You know what I'm saying? Like, to make, it's going to help improve your quality of life. So you can do the things like rest, take a bath, go to the beach, whatever. And then from there, you can make a bigger game plan, a bigger master plan. Okay. Time is going to be your biggest resource in that particular situation. Okay. Because sleep deprivation is a warfare. That's like the first warfare tool that they use is sleep deprivation. Okay. So you want to work through that. And it seems like childcare, figuring out a childcare plan somehow is going to be your best option with that. So yeah, so I want to summarize around the psychology of a vampire. Vampirism runs this planet. It's been working for a very particular group of folks on this planet, and beings who have been more in the black sheep program or have felt like a little bit more like marked for sacrifice and whatnot have been on the feeding source. Okay, a lot of times that's the mark of Cain energy as well. It's the black sheep program. It's the destiny swap program. But they need you to keep their polarity game going. We can't fight the law of polarity. It is a universal law. Speaking from a cosmic law standpoint, the law of polarity stays. That being said, you can go neutral. That outranks universal law. That's more of a cosmic frequency. Neutrality outranks polarity. So what you can do is you can bring in a cosmic force and say, I want to go to neutral. Yes, I know I'm in a lot of energy harvesting situations, a lot of energy harvesting scripts. I choose neutrality. Then you work on reverse polarizing your birth chart. You're now working with the algorithm of those same grids that oppressed you. And with that, those same oppressive energies, now you get to have a 360-degree experience with them. And you can utilize them to your benefit. In order to do that, you must become a vampire. You must learn about the alchemy of vampiric energy, the way it's been warred upon against you, retrieving your energy from vampiric scripts, raising your density through a process of spiral vampirism. Anything that you encounter is befueling you to propel you into your next timeline, into your next phase. No energy is bad energy, and that could be hate. That could be that same hate directed to you. You could be utilizing that from a spiral vampiristic approach. And I talk about that more in the book, The Architect is Her. So and if you caught up in the hive mentality, that's going to be found at the 22 degrees. Then you would need to also work on going to neutral so you're not triggered all the time. Neutrality helps you to not get triggered as well, which is another thing that needs to occur, because that's going to zap you, okay? So vampirism is not just bad, it's not just evil. If we all work on this concept of energy manipulation and energy vampirism, it takes away the hierarchy and the polarity of I'm better than you, so I get to vamp off of your energy. It's like, no, I'm actually just like you. Oh, okay, we're neutral, never mind. That's all it does, okay? And there is a frequency of beings on this planet who are marked to be vamped off of, and then the ones who are known as being undead. And there's a frequency that rules through our financial systems and our monetary systems that makes this happen. Beings who are known as being undead don't get vamped off of in the same way because they're undead. So you being somebody who's marked as your reverse polarizing, you want to get to a frequency of being undead. These are the mysteries of the 18th degree. These are the mysteries of the 18th dimension. For more information on navigating different dimensional thresholds and stargates, you can pick up my latest book known as The Star Goddess Codes, A Guide to Interdimensional Travel. I will be providing more curriculum and more resources related to many other degrees and dimensions that you'll navigate as you reverse polarize and as you retrieve your power, and more of that will be announced soon. I have just launched a Master Builder tier on Patreon, and this is specifically for folks who have the 22nd degree in your birth chart. This is these are people who are naturally attached to a hive and a weird destiny swap program sometimes, and you will need to master 22 degrees or the major arcana within the tarot through different dimensional travel in order to bring those scripts to neutral and to possess that master builder frequency. So I have more information about that down below. Sending lots of love to y'all until we meet again. Bye.